So when doing a clutch on one of these Nissan Micras, I just thought I would make, this is obviously not going to be a how-to video, but I just thought it would be a good idea to chat about what you need to take off if you're going to attempt this. So you do not need to undo the drive shaft from the hub. There's no pressure on any of the brake line or the ABS sensor, and you can pull it well clear of the gearbox. You just need to undo the two bolts on the knuckles, a 16 and an 18, undo the track rod end, and that's it. You don't need to undo the ball joint, you don't need to mess around with the hub. Now I leave mine supported on a hammer, that's fine. Obviously you just need to take care that you don't you don't knock it off or anything, and that's it. That's all you need to do for the suspension. Same thing on both sides, so that's quite simple. Okay, so in the engine bay, I just moved the air inlet to one side so that I can take out this sensor here, which is in the top of the gearbox. There is one more electrical connector on the bottom of the gearbox. Is it on this side? Don't remember where that is actually, but there's one more connector on the bottom of the gearbox as well, which you need to take off. And then you just need to undo the engine mount, take out the starter motor and undo all the bell housing bolts. The engine needs to be supported on a jack, and then the gearbox will just come out the side, and then you can just take off the clutch, which is not that big a job. And then obviously before you do anything you need to clean up the flywheel a little bit before you fit your new clutch as well, which is pretty important. And before I forget, there's one bolt here near this diff cover, a gearbox end cover, sorry, the differentials there on the side. That is for a ground cable which you need to undo, and that electrical cable I talked about a second ago is just there, which you need to unclip, and that's it. There's not really a great deal of electrics on this gearbox. This breather pipe is held into a plastic clip on the side of the gearbox, so you need to take that off as well, and then it just drops down. One thing I would advise when you take this out is, firstly, make sure you take out that sensor, don't leave it in, because when you twist it you can snap off the electrical connector on the body of the car. I would also raise the diff up and then slide it back. One mistake I made when I was doing this was hitting the inside of the wheel arch liner, and there was no give in it, so you have to take out the wheel arch liner as well, which is just held in with a few clips. I actually forgot to do that, which was kind of a mistake really. Obviously you need to drain the gearbox, and before I take it out I just make sure that this breaks free easily so that I can make sure I can refill it. You will not get far with a gearbox if you can't refill it. If you can't refill it, you can't do the clutch basically. Gearboxes without fluid is like engines without oil. Very bad stuff. These are the gear linkage cables here, so I just get a trim remover tool, this one here actually, and I just put it in here, and then I pop off the gear linkage cables like that and just go, off they come. They can be a bit tricky, and then there's a housing with two clips back here which holds on a bracket, which you also need to take off. I mean, I'm showing you it out of the car so you can see where all the bolts are. There's one of the starter motor bolts, the other one's a gearbox bolt. That's a gearbox bolt. There's a gearbox bolt there, and then there's also a gearbox bolt on the other side here coming through the engine into the gearbox. And then there's a few underneath as well. I think there's like 313s underneath. All in all, this isn't a bad gearbox to do for a DIY. You don't need any specialty tools to take it apart. You don't need any specialty tools to bleed the new clutch, which has a concentric slave cylinder, which is just there. This one here is toast. That's the reason why. I mean, you can see it's all burned up. That's the reason why we're doing this. All the grease has been thrown. That's held in with two 10mm bolts there, which I've wound back in so I don't lose them. So it's not a bad job. Hour and a half it took me to get the gearbox out. Obviously I'm going to replace all the drive shaft seals as well before it goes back in. So if it's the first time you've ever done one, maybe allow like a full morning. If you have a helper, even better.